Welcome back to the Little Blinking Light podcast. I'm Richard Pyatt. Roger Forewarn's back with us from AE Tech Design. I kind of snickered to myself when I read this topic. The future of AV in your environment. Why did I laugh? Because AV, 40 years ago, I don't know, meant an overhead projector or something. Audio visual means a whole lot more now, doesn't it?
It does. I think, unfortunately, the pandemic was one of those things that really turned some things in the world of AV and what the expectations were of it. And now it wasn't just I'm going to watch and or hear something like it was in the past. It's something I'm going to interact with. It's a two-way vehicle where it used to only be kind of more of a one-way. I'm going to consume things. Now I'm also going to present myself. I'm going to have it so that I'm having a meeting. I'm having, something where I want other people on some other place on the planet to be able to see what's going on and to be able to have that back and forth.
Audio visual then means really communications.
It really does, and AV and the communications and the integration of those two has also become really important. So having the hardware that is being used for AV meet the software and the platforms. So you got your Zoom, your Microsoft Teams, those types of things. How do we get those to work together and be easy for the end user? All too often we see systems where the end user goes in, they're like, it's a really great system, but I don't know how to use it. well, you mean there's not an easy way for you to turn it on and start a meeting? No, I need my tech person to come in and make it happen. That's not what the goal should be for an end user.
Yeah. Well, and I snickered not to make fun of anyone who says that. I was snickering because I've said that. So.
Well, I think we all have. I think we're in tech, and we do this a lot. But there's a little bit of panic when you go to do something and it doesn't work. If anything, it's sometimes higher pressure for us. Nobody will make fun of you faster than being in tech and not having your tech work. And so the panic and pressure sets in really quick. You're like, uh-oh. So we want to make sure our stuff works super smooth. But more importantly, we want to make sure that panic feeling that we know all too well, nobody else is experiencing when they're using their AV systems in their environment.
That's really kind of you, to take the panic away. When you said that, it reminded me of an occasion long ago where we decided at our organization to do webinars, and it was the first one, and it didn't go so well when we didn't quite have the technology sorted out. That is panic.
It is panic, and there's nothing worse than knowing that there are people on the other end somewhere who are waiting to be able to see you or hear you. I just watched a news broadcast of an event that's happened here recently, and the audio didn't work in it. I mean, this was a government organization trying to reach people, and people were tuned in live to watch this event, and the audio didn't work. So the person presenting did their entire presentation, and I'm not even sure if they were aware or not, but nobody could hear them that wasn't physically there at the press conference.
Yeah. They had to be in the room. That's yesterday's way of doing it.
Right. You know.
So when we talk about this, having all of the technology and then having those who are going to use it understand how to make it work, we get that part. What else should we be concerned about?
I think we're at an interesting junction in the world of AV in the sense that AV has now matured enough and networking has now matured enough where there's a convergence, where these two things are coming together, and we're now able to do things that were very specialized before. And I'll take an example. You have something happening. Maybe you have multiple conference rooms in your facility. Well, what if you needed to be able to share audio and video between those spaces and quickly route that AV information Well, there was very specialized systems that would allow that in the past. Now with the network being involved, it's really easy because you already have that infrastructure typically in your organization in those facilities. Now over that network, we're able to get information of an AV type between those. So routing that information, routing cameras, making it become a full production. We've seen it where we have systems that, maybe this is a very large board meeting for an organization, and they actually have people in multiple rooms, and they need to be able to switch between the people talking in those rooms. Well, if you have the old style of system, as you need to upgrade it, everything needs to be changed out with it. Whereas with more modern systems that run on the network, you're able to change out parts and pieces. You're able to quickly make adjustments, and everything kind of works together. So knowing how that works, but then also making sure that your network is ready, that your cabling systems are ready for it, the network electronics are ready for it, and that they're programmed appropriately for it.
Right. These it's like running a TV studio.
It is, but more and more, because of social media, because of other factors, we're seeing that people have an expectation that these events have a certain quality to them.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to easily hear people. You should be able to see them when they're talking. And those are the types of things that in the past people were more forgiving of because the technology wasn't there. The technology is there now. So now making sure that it works the way that you intended to, it's easy to operate, and it's robust to do different things as your organization changes and evolves with that technology.
So what's the goal then in what you described about different meetings in different rooms? And let's suppose there's an audience watching that and you're going back and forth and they're watching each other. The goal then is to have a person or a few people who are able to run all of that seamlessly.
Yeah, I think in the past, if you really look at it, large Fortune companies, when they were running those types of events, they would have entire production crews. Whether that was an in-house crew of people or they would actually rent a production company who had the technical expertise to run the lighting systems, the video systems, the audio systems, connect them all, make sure they're all working. You at that level, that took a lot of manpower.
Sure.
And as we all know, the cost of people these days, it's expensive. So anything that we can do to help make a system that's easy to operate but robust and can do various things, that becomes a huge win, that you don't actually have to have somebody run it. A great example of this is we work with governmental bodies, oftentimes that have some sort of board or commission that is in charge of operating. So they have meetings, and they're public facing meetings. And obviously you have people on site who need to be able to hear and see the things that are happening. So that's a portion of the consideration. But then you also have the people that are tuning in now over some sort of live stream.
Right.
And they want to be able to hear and see the exact same way. And in the past, if you really wanted to do it correctly, you had to have somebody there that said, okay, board member A is talking. I'm going to make sure that the camera is on them, that their mic is turned up. And it took a person. Now the systems are intelligent enough that the cameras can automatically move to the person who's talking.
How about that?
And that way the people who are watching are actually getting good video footage of the person talking. They're hearing the person talking well. And it's not taking a person making it happen to do it. They're turning the system on. They're setting it for whatever type of presentation or meeting that they're having, and the system's intelligent enough to go, oh, I'm getting audio from this mic. Great example is sometimes in those meetings, you actually kind of have a little bit of back and forth maybe between two people. So instead of constantly switching back and forth between those, it might take two different cameras and then put both of those people up on the screen so that you can watch the person who's talking and maybe the reaction of somebody else. Or those systems might have an overall shot of the entire board that's up there so that they can watch the reaction of everybody. Or maybe somebody from the public is speaking and they want to be able to hear that person speak. So now you have to have a camera shot of the person who's up there, and you have to be able to easily hear them. So it's that coordination of all of those different things that are just happening in a public meeting, that you want to make sure that the people who are tuning into that are able to hear that easily. And you don't want to have somebody pay for a production person to come in and run the meeting.
Well, you use that municipal example, and that is exactly what was in my mind at that moment, because so many municipalities, maybe all of them, pivoted to this way of communicating during the pandemic. Their meetings were on YouTube and were produced in this way. So let me just be clear. You are saying that the technology exists to, I'm going to say, televise such a meeting without a production person, that the equipment is smart enough to follow the flow of these conversations with all of these different folks automatically.
Yes, absolutely. And it's using things that were already there, but it's using them in an intelligent way. You have some AI, they call it AI tracking, but you also have things like, if there's a mic at every board member seat, if there's audio being, a certain level of audio being received for a certain amount of time, well, guess what? That person's talking. You better have a camera on that person to be able to do that. Or maybe you have two people right next to each other that are talking, and you only have so many cameras in the system. Maybe it's better that one camera zoom out a little bit and capture two people at once.
Yeah.
So using the cameras intelligently is something that wasn't able to be done by anybody but a human in the past.
Right.
And the systems have evolved to make it work that way. And as that evolution occurs, one of the other things is you're going to want to have a system that's easily upgradable, because the expectations for what those systems can do obviously will evolve and change during time. And you don't want to have to redo the whole system. You want to only maybe redo the brains of it, and making sure that it's a system that isn't stuck in older technologies, but are using newer technologies that are going to be a little bit more future proof.
Is that AI? Did AI have a role in making this so automated?
AI has definitely had a role in making that so automated. AI is going to actually analyze the video. It's the person's mouth moving. Just things like their posture changing, their breathing changing, different things are going to kind of cue it that this person's talking, and I better capture that footage of them talking.
Wow.
And so having that ability for something to be able to kind of be that production person that isn't there, it is definitely AI that's a piece of that as well.
All right. So now we're coming back to the notion of design, right? So what do we really want to have happen? What's the end goal? All of this has to be analyzed.
It does. And, one of the things is, there is a way to do this at practically any budget. And is it going to be as nice and as polished? Of course not. Obviously, certain price points are going to get you certain sets of features or certain levels of polish in your production. But there are ways of doing it at, $1,000, and there's a way of doing it at $100,000. And we can talk through all of that with somebody to really identify, okay, at this price point, we can get to here. At this price point, we can get to here, And for many organizations, they don't even know what it's going to cost to get them to where they know what they want it to do, but they don't know how to get it there, and they don't know how to budget for it, and they don't know how to plan for it. We work with a lot of organizations just so that they can plan their budget. Well, we know we can't afford it. It's not in this year's budget, but we can put it in next year's budget if we had an idea of how much it would cost to execute our plan. So we talk a lot with organizations about that too.
I want to come back to something you said, $1,000, $100,000. Even at $1,000 level, there's some level of automation that can be accomplished like you've described.
Right. And, for an organization that's looking at that, that's going to be a situation where we're probably going to just have a free consultation with them, point them in the direction of a product, and that product is it's kind of an all-in-one solution that's going to be able to do what I just talked about. And then we'll talk about, okay, that's one level. What are those other levels? And, that $1,000 is going to do actually better than you might think, but it's not going to do like some of those other types of systems.
Fair enough. Makes sense. You can't have, a Cadillac product at a Chevy price.
Right.
But there are some things that you can have in that lower price point, which is really interesting to contemplate. So maybe that's what folks need to walk through, is the understanding of that. And as you said, how to begin budgeting for that. So that's a conversation you can have even well before any kind of implementation takes place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So ask about that. Roger and his team at AE Tech Design can talk about that particular process as it relates to your specific situation. Little Blinking Light podcast, that's what this is about. We talk about these things, try to understand what the possibilities are. Roger and his team are ready to consult and assist. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. We appreciate it.
We'll be back soon on the Little Blinking Light podcast.